Good morning. I'm pleased to have this opportunity this morning to share a bit of my faith journey and at the same time to express my profound gratitude to you all, to Yenna and Megan, to the staff here, to the deacons, especially this morning, and to this church generally for the wonderful fellowship, support, life lessons, and faith you have engendered during my 41 years as a member of the church. When I was 5 years old, my strict Presbyterian grandpa, Hobby, had a talk with me about religion. At some point, my grandfather greatly upset me by suggesting that I should marry a Presbyterian. Well, I didn't know any Presbyterian girls. Joanne Sapola was Roman Catholic, and she was the kindergarten classmate I wanted to marry. The other alternative might be Gigi Gooker, my babysitter, but she was not Presbyterian either. My grandfather remained firm that I should look for a Presbyterian. My mother, however, was Episcopal, and my father had joined her church, which was 1 block from our home in Buffalo, New York. St. John's Episcopal was a beautiful church, much like this church. Our minister there baptized me on August 19th, 1945. His name was Walter Russell Lord, and we addressed every prayer to him by saying, "Dear Lord." In December 1957, I was in a confirmation class at St. John's Episcopal. A visiting bishop was in charge of the confirmation. He was from Asia. The Right Reverend Quentin Huang, retired bishop of the Burma Road, was the first Asian person I ever met. I was pleased to be confirmed by someone from another country and with the strange-sounding name of Huang. Before I became an altar boy, I sang in the youth choir from the age of about 7 until 10, joining my father, who was a tenor in the choir for 56 years. In the 12 years during which I actively participated, first as a choir member and then as an altar boy, I came to appreciate the spiritual peacefulness of services, the inspiring music, and the opportunity, even briefly, to think about life and the people at our church. And then, unexpectedly, 5 years after I left Buffalo for college, I was invited in 1968 to teach English at a university in South Korea as a member of the Peace Corps. In the meantime, I had become disillusioned with the church's acquiescence in both the Vietnam War and the societal discrimination in this country. Service abroad offered an opportunity to escape my unhappiness and to try to do something good in the world. My life changed. Peace Corps volunteers lived with host country families. The head of my Korean family in Daegu, Korea, was a Presbyterian minister named Chae-un Na, one of the most brilliant people I've ever met. He taught Latin, Greek, German, Hebrew, and Aramaic at the Daegu Bible Institute and was the assistant pastor at Daegu's largest Presbyterian church. He taught me Korean, and I taught him English. He spoke no English at first, while we lived in his small home together for over 2 years with his lovely wife and 3 small children. I also learned about the Presbyterian community there and the church's incredible work overseas, a significant part of my faith journey. In this regard, near our home was the Presbyterian Dongsan Hospital and Nursing College, with which several American missionaries were involved as staff and teachers. A renowned medical institution founded in 1899 by American missionaries. Our church's Fran Darrow's great uncle, Howard F. Moffett, was coincidentally then the 7th director of this hospital and college. The hospital and college were very important to me because my beloved wife was a nursing student at the college and was introduced to me in 1969 by an American missionary serving as a professor at the college. Equally significant in our lives was the ancillary Presbyterian orphanage attached to the hospital, in which Young survived the Korean War destruction and post-war abysmal poverty for 12 years after being separated from her family when it fled southward in front of the attack from North Korea. I went to church at first in Daegu several times a week, and sometimes 3 times on Sunday, for interminable services in Korean, seated for hours, cross-legged on the floor of an unheated and uncooled church. If you want to test your faith, I invite you to come and sit on the floor cross-legged, even for 10 minutes. Sermons often lasted more than an hour. I was impressed by the fervor and dedication of Presbyterians in Daegu, but I felt overwhelmed. Then I realized after several months that as an Episcopalian, I was not expected to participate like a Presbyterian. After all, Episcopalians, in contrast to Presbyterians, drank, smoked, danced, went to movies, and otherwise behaved outrageously enough that in Korea they were hardly considered to be Christians at all. My lack of fervor could thereby be forgiven, although I still continued to attend church once weekly with my family. Another American missionary surgeon at the hospital invited several Peace Corps teachers and me to help construct a rural health clinic on a remote island off of Korea's south coast during our university vacations when we couldn't teach. Sponsored jointly by the World Council of Churches and by a Presbyterian church in Hanover, New Hampshire, and the Korean government, the project opened my eyes both to the poverty and to the unimaginable diseases faced by rural Koreans then, and to the life-changing relief that a modern clinic could provide, thanks in large part to the work of the Presbyterian Church. Young and I were married by Reverend Na in Arlington in 1974. She was a Presbyterian in accordance with my grandfather's admonition. We joined Falls Church Presbyterian Church in 1984 and were nurtured together by our pastors and the congregation here for 4 decades, for which I am extremely grateful. We especially enjoyed ushering together and thereby meeting new members and old members alike. Most important to us and to me personally were the 2 groups at Falls Church Presbyterian of which we have been members over those years. The first group is our so-called church group, by which 4 families, the Darrows, the Rushes, the Volpes, and the Hobbies, met together for a monthly potluck dinner at our homes with our children until they left home. For about 35 delightful years, once a month for 35 years, engaging in prayer, fellowship, group therapy, and occasional trips together. I fondly remember how for 13 of those years, our group dinners at the Hobby House were joined by an angel named Jasper, who crept out from under the table to add his howls of affirmation to our rendering of the doxology that began each dinner. The second group is the more recent group we call the Renew Group, by which Kathy Chavez, Dick Roberg, Nancy Jones, Allison Martin Lancaster, Bob Perks, Margot Thorning, Young and I met regularly over the 6 years period prior to 2023 for meals together and wonderful fellowship during our more mature years. Finally, I want to say again that I am amazingly fortunate and grateful to have been a part of this loving church for so long. God indeed works in marvelous ways and coincidences. How wonderful to have met my first Asian person, Bishop Huang, when I was confirmed 48 years ago, and now to have a pastor named Huang, especially and superbly supporting our family and me during Young's illness and death, and enhancing so magnificently my current spiritual life at Falls Church Presbyterian Church.